All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this Village Board meeting to order on Monday, May 16, 2022, and ask you if you would all please rise and join the Village Board in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the Deputy Clerk please call a roll?
Trustee LaBedz?
Here.
Trustee Scaletta?
Here.
Trustee Bertucci?
Here.
Trustee Grasse?
Here.
Trustee Tinaglia?
Here.
Trustee Canty?
Here.
Trustee Baldino?
Here.
Trustee Schwingbeck?
Here.
And President Hayes.
Here. There are no minutes to approve tonight, so we'll move on to the approval of the accounts payable, and I call on Trustee Bertucci.
I'll move approval of the check warrant register for 5/15/2022 in the amount of $4,107,821.07.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Bertucci, seconded by Trustee Scaletta. Any questions or comments from the board? Anything from the audience? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Bertucci?
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta?
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz?
Yes.
Trustee Grasse?
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia?
Yes.
Trustee Canty?
Yes.
Trustee Baldino?
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck?
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. Well, under recognitions and presentations, we're pleased to have back with us tonight the chairman of our Veterans Memorial Committee, Greg Padovani, to talk to us about upcoming events for Memorial Day. Greg, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, trustees, and everybody here and everybody at home. I'm Greg Padovani, the chairman of our Veterans Memorial Committee here in Arlington Heights, and I'm so happy to say we're having Memorial Day parade and ceremony this year after a 2-year hiatus during the pandemic. And it's going to be run just like it's always been run. This is our 103rd anniversary or annual Memorial Day parade and ceremony. And you'll find these flyers around town posted on websites and e-blasted all over. The route is the same as it's been for the last 50 years, and the timing's the same. Memorial Day is May 30th, Monday, May 30th, and the parade steps off sharp at 9:30 a.m. It marches all the way over to Memorial Park, and Memorial Park in Arlington Heights is that little triangular park with the eternal flame at the center. That's just 1 block west of the Arlington Memorial Library. That's where we hold our Memorial Day ceremony, and that's where we honor and remember all our nation's heroes, but especially Arlington's fallen heroes, the 58 young men from our town who have died in the service of our nation. And in honor and remembrance of those 58 young men, our town, or our parade and our town, will have these signs everywhere we can find them. And we actually have Trustee Scaletta and Trustee Schwingbeck leading scouts that will be handing out these signs all up and down the parade, and we're asking people to hold these up as the parade marches by. But the thing we want everybody to know is the back side of this sign has the names of those 58 fallen heroes. And that's who we're honoring and remembering this Memorial Day. And we're asking everybody to come to the park, Memorial Park, for the 11 o'clock ceremony, because it's a special ceremony to gather, and there'll be, at my latest count, there'll be at least 10 Gold Star families there. 10 of the families of these fallen heroes. They come regularly, and they really, I can't tell you how much they appreciate our town honoring and remembering their young sons or their brothers or their fathers. But Memorial Day is also, the ceremony is also going to be special this year because one of our local veterans, Steve Nash, a retired staff sergeant from the United States Army, he was an Army Ranger, not just any Army guy, but an Army Ranger. And he was in the Battle of Mogadishu, which was portrayed in the movie Black Hawk Down. If you've seen boy, it's a hard movie to watch. But if you've seen that movie, he was one of the Army Rangers that went in to rescue the Black Hawk pilots that were shot down in Mogadishu. Steve himself was shot 13 times during that 18-hour battle, 10 in the body armor, but that broke bones. That never penetrated, but boy, it did some injuries to him. And he also would tell you that he was a member of the Mogadishu Mile team, which at the end of the battle, as you might remember, they were putting all the wounded on those transports trying to get them out of the battle. And they didn't have room for Steve. So he had to run a mile to safety, even though he had been shot so many times. Stephen is an exceptional man, in my opinion. I've had the honor of knowing him for a little bit now. And Steve will tell you, and in fact, that's what he's going to do on Memorial Day. After he's pinned, he's going to read the names of the 19 fallen heroes from that battle, all of them friends of his. And we went and had bricks made for them and placed in Arlington Heights Memorial Park, the 19 fallen heroes from the Battle of Mogadishu, 2 of whom had received the Medal of Honor posthumously. And Steve is going to read their names because he would tell you those are the real heroes and those are the ones he wants remembered. So we're just asking everybody in the community, come out and go along, watch the parade as it comes along, but also try to make it over to Memorial Park at 11 o'clock for a very special ceremony and to honor our nation's and our town's fallen heroes. Are there any questions while I'm here?
Well, Greg, no question, but let me just thank you, as I always do, for all the hard work that you put into these events and all the events honoring our military veterans and their families throughout each and every year. And so thanks to you and your team. I know there's others involved as well. And so can't thank you enough for really continuing to enhance our reputation as a community that so honors and remembers our military veterans, especially our fallen heroes. So thank you for your leadership.
Just as a footnote, you all remember the Remembering Our Fallen Memorial that was here at North School Park Thursday through this Sunday. It was so beautiful, and we believe it's been visited by many thousands of people, constant stream of people in and out, including classes that were brought as field trips. And when a school came, like St. James in particular, we try to point out the fact that one of our fallen heroes, Will Newgard, came from St. James. He graduated from St. James. So the kids, that kind of really hit home for them. So thank you for the support. Thank you to the village, to the Park District, to the library, to everybody that's supporting our veterans events, that one and Memorial Day.
Right. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you all.
We have one other item under recognitions and presentations. That's the points sign presentation. Mr. Reckloss, you want to introduce this one?
Yes. This came from a discussion that began, I think, about 2 years ago. We have a local firm, Optimal Design, who does a lot of interesting work. Was lucky enough to get a tour of their facility and reminded me of the scenes in James Bond movies where he visits Q, some of the things that they have going on there. And one project in particular had some very strong municipal applications, and we've been talking ever since, and we have a prototype downstairs and maybe having another one coming soon downtown. And I'll let Mr. Saj Patel take it from here.
Thank you, Randy. Mayor, Board of Trustees, thank you again for your time today. I'm going to let Michael Ottoman actually give you a quick overview of the sign, and then we'll follow up with some acknowledgments.
Thank you, Saj. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Thank you, Randy, for your support. So my name is Michael Ottoman. I'm with Optimal Design, a company design engineering firm here locally, Saj will talk about. I am tasked with taking points to market as far as taking the prototype you see down there, commercializing it, and getting it out into the field. It's a great process. It's a great honor to have it here. The sign itself is not just a wayfinding sign. It's the most advanced wayfinding sign in the world. Has the ability to understand what's around it and its surroundings. So information isn't just going on at 24/7. There needs to be people there to see it for it actually to work, to use power to have motion. But it truly is kinetic art. It was designed by artists originally, and then taking that out to the field, it's kinetic art. It tracks your attention with motion and with sound. It's actionable information. There's multiple levels of information too. There's your basic information, which is just feeds of information. Think of it as time, date, weather. Usually the bank handles all that, right? And then the next level up there is community information that can be driven out through that. The next level up from there, and that's customizable as well. So, for example, different organizations like to use, if you have a historian, historians always like to get their information out. It's not always that people come to get that information, but the sign allows you to take information and push that out to people where people are, when they are, and make it relevant to them. So being that it's a wayfinding sign, it can the historian can have access to the sign for information. Think of it as fun facts locally, and the sign will point to it and give the information behind it. Maybe be able to drive a QR code to get more information on your phone. It's really also designed to help people get off their phones and participate in what's around them. It's hyper-local, from getting community information from the local government to the community, getting residents information into the sign out, information like that. Additionally, on top of that, it allows, for example, the local businesses within the area, their business information is there where they are, and then it allows those businesses to add more information to that. Maybe they have a special going on for a day, or maybe there's something going on, maybe there's a birthday party you want to announce. All that information can be drawn there. But it also takes into account for emergency information. Meaning if there's an Amber Alert, if there's a tornado warning, it'll essentially that gets priority on the sign. It'll then allow, it'll point to a tornado shelter and say, seek shelter, tornado. It'll say Amber Alert, all that information automatically gets fed into the sign and shown up there if it's relevant to your local area. And then going up even higher to the sign, there's a dynamic. Since it understands what's around it. It has the capability, for example, a static advertisement could be the Metro train's regular schedule. But if the train's 15 minutes late, it would be nice to know that. Well, the sign has that ability to understand the train's late and correct the information and give that information out to commuters that are by. Or if one of the restaurants says, I want my advertisement not to go at a specific time, but I want it to go when there are 200 people coming out of the movie theater, right? That advertisement can count the number of people that are within the radius of it, the viewable radius, and then post that information out there. So a lot of flexibility, a lot of some really cool things. But the sign itself, being where it is, isn't just about the information. It's also about integrating securely into a smart city infrastructure. So it can have additional sensors in it. It can have lightning detectors. It can have air quality sensors put into it. And that information can be drawn and sent back into the community, as well as there's a whole number of sensors that can be into it. I'm just drawing blank right now. I apologize. And those things can be added to the sign as the sign continues to advance. So that information is very valuable to the city planners. It's very valuable to the park district if they want to know that there's a lightning strike and get people off the fields and all those other things. So it's really designed to be a hyper-local communication and advertising platform that's intelligent enough to understand what's going on around it at any given time. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike. One of our missions at Optimal Design is to incubate really great technology and manufacturing solutions that could be applied throughout the world. The neat thing about the point sign is that we actually have global interest, but we are, because of our great partnership with the Village of Arlington Heights, we love to deploy the first ones here as part of the initial rollout plan. Our overall plan is to actually build our operations, manufacturing, and support teams right here in Arlington Heights, again, as part of a full business that would support the global deployments for the sign. So I can't thank Mayor Tom Hayes, the Village Board of Trustees, Randy Reckless and his team for all of your support for Optimal Design as a business as a whole, for our success in the past 19 years, and continued success in the future. Thank you so much for your time and for your partnership.
Well, thank you. I came in Saturday morning and saw your prototype downstairs and was very impressed. And so I had certainly had a lot of questions at that time. You've answered a few of them tonight. So it has not been deployed anywhere else at this point. Is that what you're saying?
No, it has not. No,
Okay.
it has not. And actually, the beautiful alfresco area that you guys have put together for the citizens of Arlington Heights is a perfect application for the sign, for foot traffic, for the advertising and some of the applications that Mike mentioned. So we think it's just a perfect partnership for us. It's really in our backyard, and great opportunity for us to test different things on it, be able to really work out the prototype and the production version, and then eventually roll it out to all of the global. We've had, I think, 6 continents have contacted us for the sign, so we know it's going to be global, but it's going to really start very local and appropriately with a partnership with you guys.
Just very briefly, can you tell us how it works in terms of uploading the information? Is that done by somebody at the village? Is it done by you guys? How do the businesses know who to submit it to and what they have to submit, those kinds of things?
Great question, Your Honor. Each individual that's authorized to have a logon, so use the librarian or the historian as an example. The person will have authorization to get on the sign, put the information in the sign, and then there'll be an approver assigned within the Village of Arlington Heights to approve it. Now, what we are doing is working on algorithms to, once it's sort of machine learning, once we approve it or once you approve it, it then goes on an approval list of that it can be repeated again. And so then it's just a matter of grabbing the message you want, putting it in, selecting a time slot, and then it's going. So each individual, depending on their requirement, it can be customized to your specific. You can push that empowerment down to the individual user, or you can make it into a specific team to do it. But it's done through a secure portal, either on a tablet or in off of a PC or Mac.
Okay, Mr. Ecklaus.
No, I was just going to add that, logistically, one of the things we're talking about for the prototype is, there'd be components of it that, as Mike said, would be public information that, we would kind of scroll. But then they, as part of the business model, they would be also selling advertisements to local establishments. And so then, the sign would orient itself and say at Salsa 17, starting at 6 o'clock, there's, $7 margaritas or something. And then, later it would spin around and have something at, there's a band playing at Peggy Canane's. And so there's a lot of different, inputs on this, if in terms of how that would work. And the one thing we were intrigued about is it wouldn't require the village to just actively sit on this thing and, change it every 15 minutes. That, there'd be a component of it that we would have, but a lot of it would be dealt with by other input sources. So
Think of it as the community adds information to it, whether it's business, residents, government. They all have the ability and can have the ability to add information into the sign.
Okay, nice. Other questions? Trustee Scaletta.
Thank you. I'm really excited. I mean, this is kind of founded in Arlington Heights, and you're giving us the first opportunity. That's awesome. So to try to understand, would this be separate from the community sign, and this would be more of like the signs in the downtown that are more like wayfinding and informational signage?
it would be something, I guess the short answer to that is yes, in some ways, and I think it's something completely new. I mean, I think is the way I would characterize it. We would certainly still have our informational signs, like we have on the big corners and so forth. In this concept for the prototype downtown, we think it lends itself to this because a lot of people interact with the downtown in different ways, and that's, I think, perfect for this type of scenario. And so some of it would be informational, some of it would be advertising, some of it would be I think you could even have kind of curiosities, kind of interesting little pieces of trivia, and I think it's a thing that people would be drawn to, and would be yet another thing that would kind of set our downtown experience apart because it's not something that anyone's seen before. So it's kind of, in my mind, it's kind of a new concept.
Great. So it would be like on the corners or in the downtown where we have existing signage.
At this point, Trustee Scaletta, we're just looking for one location for a prototype. And a lot of it, Public Works is going to be working with these guys is trying to find a place where, quite frankly, it's a safe location and there's power and it's got visibility. And I think, once we get through the prototype phase, that'd be something that obviously everyone would be discussing. But at this point, all we're contemplating is a single prototype in the downtown that they can use as a test.
Oh, that's great. So when you say interactive, it's really more of informational, not necessarily you're interacting with the sign as much as you're just gathering information?
So if you go down and look at the prototype, that's our Gen 2 interface with that. It has the ability for you to go up and provide searchable information. So say you're out looking for dining, right? You want to go in, but you're looking for a specific, I want to do Italian food. You can very quickly break that down to just where the Italian restaurants. And then, for example, information that the restaurant can post is what's the availability of tables could be there. So then 3 restaurants, or 6 restaurants will be pointed out, and then the availability of the information of wait times on tables or anything that's dynamic like that can be picked up through from the restaurant itself and then displayed on the sign itself.
Okay, so people will be kind of touching it, like filtering down to gather the information that they need.
They can. It has that ability, but if there's people around and nobody's doing that, it'll run through a typical pattern of, here's what's available around you. And again, it's really, everybody today uses their phones to search for something, right? This allows you the sign tells you what's in your area. So it's actually information coming to you versus you going to it. And then it opens it up to make more things available, something that maybe I didn't know a band was playing at a restaurant at 8:30, and I've got some time. Let's go over there. Let's try that. We've never been to that restaurant before. Let's go try that. It's designed really to drive that type of behavior, especially in the scenario that we're thinking here within Arlington.
Well, it sounds great because, like, if we're in downtown Arlington Heights and we're looking for entertainment, like a band or other entertainment, we would kind of click on entertainment, and instead of us looking at our phones where there's 6 other people with me, everybody around me would be able to see kind of what we're looking at.
And it draws that attention, and we solve problems. We solve very difficult problems in how human interaction works. Everything that SARS built this company around is about advancing human ability. So I like the idea of getting people off the phones. I have 3 children. It's a great idea. But if you think about where the sign where it is now, and when you go see it, you'll see it has the ability to draw you in to do that searchable, right? But the information is above you when you're there. So it actually has audio added to it as well, so that the audio and the frequency that's there draws your attention up to the sign. You step back, you read the information, it points you to where you want to be. Maybe it gives you, a coupon code, or maybe it gives you, what the special of the day is, and off you go and your party goes, or you can start talking about the different restaurants that are pointed up there. And again, it's really about community at the end of the day.
That's incredible. Thank you for bringing this technology to, not only to our village, but also to the world. I had the opportunity to tour your facility, and it's fantastic. I mean, there's so many steps ahead that your organization has taken. And thank you for bringing it to the Village of Arlington Heights.
Thank you. And again, we can't be successful without our partnership with the village, and it's been a really tremendous time. When we used to be in Mount Prospect a long time ago, and we chose Arlington Heights for a variety of reasons, but we didn't realize that, at the time we were a bit naive and a lot less gray hair, and so we didn't realize that the partnership with a village and your willingness to be a great partner with us would help us in so many different aspects. So again, thank you so much for all of that.
All right, thank you both. Any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you, gentlemen. Looking forward to working with you. All right, there is no other business under recognitions and presentations, so we'll move on then to citizens to be heard. And I do have one blue card for an individual who wants to address the board on an item not on the agenda, and that's Miel Johnson. And you're just reminded of the 3-minute time limit if you'd come forward.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Nicolle Johnson. I was recently elected as the co-president of the League of Women Voters of Arlington Heights, Mount Prospect, Buffalo Grove, and surrounding areas. We met briefly last year when I urged the board to adopt an inclusive flag ordinance. Tonight, our league is urging you to make Arlington Heights a more welcoming city of good neighbors by reconsidering the excellent proposal Trustee Grasse put forward last year that would allow flags flown by the state of Illinois to fly in Arlington Heights. Our library is considering a similar proposal because inclusion is essential for a town of good neighbors. As race, religion, and gender-based violence continue to dominate the headlines, we must do better for our community. We admire the village's desire to sustain a welcoming community for all. The League of Women Voters looks forward to being a partner in that journey. The League therefore asks the Board of Trustees to amend the previously adopted flag ordinance to allow any flag displayed at the state capitol to fly proudly in our village. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Miel. This was brought up, as you know, previously, and there was, let me just say, we did discuss this fully and carefully and thoroughly. Last year, a vote was taken by this village board. The flag ordinance was passed in its current form, and there is insufficient support on this board to reconsider that ordinance, which is now on the books of the village of Arlington Heights. So, are there any other members of the audience who wish to address the board on items not on the agenda?
Yeah, Melissa Kerr. And the tax increment finance districts, because the rest of us don't get that same deal where we can use our property tax money to improve our own property. And the tax increment finance districts, it'll free up government labor for other projects. It'll free up cash for the rest of us to improve our own property with our own money. It'll take the money out of the tax increment finance fund bank accounts, which the banks use to invest for their own profits. Thank you.
Good. Thanks, Melissa. Any other members of the audience wish to address the board on items not on the agenda? All right, seeing none, then I'll close the citizens to be heard portion of our agenda and move on to old business. There is now none. There was one item we were going to discuss tonight, but the applicant did not appear at the scheduled time earlier this evening, so we did not convene as a committee of the whole before this meeting tonight. So no report under old business. So we'll move on then to the consent agenda. Are there any members of the board who wish to remove an item on the consent agenda? Understand Keith Moons wishes to remove consent legal D from the consent agenda, and so that shall be removed. Any other members of the audience wish to remove an item on the consent agenda?
Consent legal E.
All right, consent legal E shall also be removed. Any other items to be removed by the audience? Seeing none, are there any members of the board who wish to vote no or pass on any remaining items on the consent agenda? Any, let's take, I would then entertain a motion to approve the remaining items. Trustee LaBedz.
I would move that we approve the remaining items of the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Trustee LaBedz, seconded by Trustee Canty. Roll call.
Trustee LaBedz?
Yes.
Trustee Canty?
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck?
Yes.
Trustee Bertucci?
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia?
Yes.
Trustee Grasse?
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta?
Yes.
Trustee Baldino?
Yes.
President Hayes?
Yes. We do have one item under new business, and that's the request for a sign variation for At Home, located at 750 East Rand Road in Arlington Heights. Is the petitioner present?
Mayor, if I might.
Mr. Reckles?
I think it, given the circumstances, if the ordinance for the TIF 5 redevelopment agreement, it may make more sense to have that item discussed and voted on first prior to the sign variation, because if that item is not approved, then I would imagine the sign variation is likely moot.
All right, that makes sense to have a motion to take legal D out of order. Trustee Scaletta.
I would move that we take up legal D at this time.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Scaletta, seconded by Trustee Canty. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Mr. Reckles.
This item is, staff has been working with RPS Capital since last year regarding the re-tenanting of the vacant 100,000 square foot box space at South Point Shopping Center. And this is a redevelopment agreement to get that site re-tenanted. And Mr. Perkins can go into details about what's contained in that agreement.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. As the board is aware, South Point Shopping Centre has had its struggles over the years, not through lack of effort on the village's part, trying to see the shopping centre redeveloped. In fact, it's taken 15 years to get a major tenant that's interested in this vacant box space. Some of the challenges that the shopping centre's had have been multiple ownership, and chronic vacancies. The tenant that was in the space before did have some sales tax revenue, the prior furniture store, but it was very marginal. It was not the store that we're talking about with At Home. In late 2019, we did have a proposal from Vasa Fitness that would have torn the building down and put a fitness center there, not generating any sales tax revenue. That was subsequently withdrawn. This proposal would generate significant sales tax revenue for the community. It would be a significant investment in South Point Shopping Center. It would act as a jump start for the remainder of the shopping center, and also help solidify this area in Arlington Heights. And as the board's aware, there are very few viable retailers in the marketplace that are of this size that would take this space. So we were very pleased and excited when RPS Capital approached us. They have two potential tenants that they've described to us. One is At Home. The other is an interior antique mall. On the antique mall scenario, they would have to only invest about $2 million in the shopping center, and they would generate a greater unleveraged rate of return than with At Home. So they requested TIF funds. The tax increment financing district is one of only two tools, really, that the village has to spur economic development. The other is the tax abatement program that the next item we'll talk about. So we analyzed the request. The RPS Capital had asked for a little bit more than what we're recommending and what has been negotiated. The village did retain SB Friedman Associates. They're a TIF consultant and advisor, and they analyzed it along with village staff. And the typical industry standard for unleveraged rate of return would be between 8 and 11%, with the industry average being 9.8%. With the TIF incentive, this would be 9.5% unleveraged rate of return, versus they could get over 14% with the antique mall. You may ask, why would they still do this deal for the At Home if they're getting a lower rate of return than with the other scenario? The answer to that is that the long term, the investment in the center does make it a more viable center in the long run. So we analyzed it from a lot of different factors. At the end of last year, there was approximately $4 million in the TIF fund, even with the incentive for Town and Country and that redevelopment, which is a $1.4 million incentive. And with the Rand Road corridor enhancements that we're talking about, the TIF fund can afford to pay for that. The TIF is set to expire in 2028, so the funds are there. There's no risk on the village taking this on and then not being able to pay it back because the funds are in the TIF district. So that may be a little lengthier than anybody anticipated, but I'll be happy to answer any other questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Perkins. Any questions? Trustee Bertucci.
So my office is directly across the street from South Point, as many of you know, and for many years that I've been there, it has looked pretty bad. Charles and the village and our investors were able to get Floor and Decor in there to support and anchor one end, and now this At Home will certainly anchor the other end. And there's a lot of stores in between Floor and Decor and At Home that need to be filled in, and I believe this will help to do it. So, long story short, I would support and endorse everything that's being said here about the TIF funds, and congratulate Charles and Randy and their staffs on getting At Home into that center and making it viable again.
Trustee Tinaglia.
Thanks, Mayor Hayes. I concur 100% with Trustee Bertucci. I had a couple of quick questions for you, Charles. What was the amount that's in the TIF fund right now? Did you say $4 million?
At the end of last year, just under $4 million, yes.
And did I know, at one point you had mentioned to us that if it's not used by a certain period of time, that money needs to get then dispersed or used, or we forego the opportunity to use it ourselves in this manner. Is that correct?
Correct. If there's an unobligated fund balance for more than 3 years, then it needs to, that money has to get dispersed.
Yep. Okay. And this developer, what do you think overall the investment is going to be on for this group of developers?
They're investing approximately $6.7 million.
6.7. All right. Wonderful. I hope this goes the right way, and congratulations on all the hard work, guys. Thanks.
Trustee Scaletta.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with Trustee Bertucci and Trustee Tinaglia with their comments thus far. So, Charles, tell us about the retailers that are out there that are willing to take on 100,000 square feet.
I don't think there are any right now that I'm aware of.
Okay. How big is the Costco?
This is unusual. I'm sorry?
How big is a Costco?
Costco is around 150,000 square feet.
Okay, and there's one down the road?
There's one at Randhurst Village.
Okay. And from my personal knowledge, I understand how challenging it is to fill a 30,000, 40,000, or 50,000. And so when you're looking at 100,000 square feet, and I know that many potential developers have made a run at the village of coming up with a concept that included, converting to retail, to a retail component with residential. And, residential doesn't have sales tax revenue, and sales tax revenue also helps with the property sale, or with the sales tax that also contributes to our overall funding of the general fund, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
That's a significant portion of the general fund.
Right. So if the general the general fund is made up of sales tax revenue and real estate taxes for the most part?
And income tax.
And income tax. And which is challenging because the state keeps changing the amount that they're going to give us. But when the sales tax revenue goes down, the real estate taxes have to go up, correct?
Yes. Generally, the one that we have control over is real estate taxes. The rest of them we're kind of subject to, as you said, what the state is willing to give us or what the market is bringing in.
All right. And so for 15 years, we haven't had somebody who was interested in this shopping center. And so, our choices are let somebody knock it all down, make it into residential, which is not going to bring in the sales tax revenue, or let it sit there empty and dilapidated, which only encourages us to create a TIF district, which we already have. And so I'm supportive of us, entering into this this TIF increment financing district or tax increment financing district with this this developer, because they've come forward with the best option that we have. And aside from them bringing in people who are going to spend sales tax revenue at that location, it's also going to generate additional sales tax revenue with the other tenants in the area, whether it's Floor and Decor or just any of the other restaurants. I mean, this is, I think, a great deal for us. And so I'm pleased that you brought this forward. I'm pleased that you worked. I know that this isn't something where they submitted a proposal and we just said, yeah, let's do this. There's lots of details in this. I mean, if you look at the redevelopment agreement, it's significant, and there's a lot of details in there, and I appreciate the efforts that staff has made over the years to bring this forward. And, people who don't believe in TIF, look at our downtown. Look at our downtown. We would not have downtown Arlington Heights the way it is today if we didn't have a TIF agreement. And so thank you for bringing this forward, and thank you for everything that you've done to make sure that TIF is a part of the redevelopment of the Village of Arlington Heights.
Any other questions? Trustee LaBedz.
Thank you, Mayor Hayes. I just want to add, I too concur with my colleagues on how vitally important that this recommendation is, the use of the TIF funds for this district, for this shopping center. I remember when it was once upon a time a vibrant shopping center, and it had not only the big spaces were filled, but the little spaces were filled, and I used to go shopping there and take my kids shopping there. So, but that's been a long time, and it's time to do something like this to get the space filled with a thriving retailer. I think the other thing that's exciting about this is that at home it creates kind of a synergy with the floor and decor. They're related. Then the antique mall, as you mentioned, it's all related, and it can be a sort of a one-stop shopping for people. So, which everyone likes to have things more conveniently located. So, I think this is great, and I would be happy to make the motion when the time comes.
Any other questions or comments? I know Mr. Moons had asked this to be removed. Mr. Moons, do you have any additional questions or comments? Please come forward.
Thank you, President Hayes. I just had a question regarding the ending balance of 2020. I think your staff notes, it said that the ending balance in 2020 for this TIF 5 was $4 million. But when I went to the budget, our budget, the 2020 actual was $3.2 million. So I'm just questioning where we're going to end up if we take out 1.4 and then this 1.3, so that's 2.7 million that's coming out. Is it coming out from the 4, or is it coming out from 3.2, President Hayes? That's my question.
I'll direct the question to Mr. Perkins.
So November 19th, 2021, the actual fund balance was $3,965,388. What's in the budget is typically an estimate done the year prior. So it may not have, we probably had more increment than what was originally estimated, or the fund balance didn't include the second installment of the taxes from 2020, which are payable in 2021.
I mean, that's what I thought. It was something like that, but it's a 2020 actual. I thought, it would be by this time, we would, that 3.2 would be a little more solid. But I take your answer.
If I could too, the other thing is there's increment that'll be higher because there's additional increment generated between the time period that this is spent and the time that when that snapshot was taken.
Okay, I accept your. I had one other question. Was you issued $2 million in bonds out of this TIF and $2.1 million in notes? Right. How is that reflected in the value of this TIF? Those values of the bonds and the notes on this.
The bond and the notes has already been paid off. That was paid off early years ago. That was for the original demolling of the Town and Country Mall. If everybody remembers, that was a kind of antiquated interior mall of about 300,000 square feet with lots and lots of vacancies. So the agreement with the Visconti companies at that time was a $2 million bond and a $2.1 million note. The bond was paid off early and the note was paid off early because the tax assessor assessed the value of the property higher than anyone estimated.
So there's no bonds and notes anymore?
There's no bonds, no notes in this TIF currently.
I understand. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Moons. Anyone else in the audience? Alyssa.
All right, I don't believe you about downtown not being developed without a TIF. That would have developed commensurate with the needs of the area, and also that other TIF district, it'll develop on its own with the needs of the people. And okay, I guess that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, thanks, Melissa. Anyone else in the audience? All right, seeing none, Trustee Scaletta and then Trustee LaBedz.
Yes, I just want to make one comment. This property is in a TIF district, and it's been vacant. This specific piece of property we're talking about has been vacant for 15 years with a TIF district. So how much longer would it be vacant if we didn't have a TIF district?
Trustee LaBedz.
Thank you, Mayor Hayes. I Move that the village board adopt the ordinance approving the redevelopment agreement and authorizing the execution of the agreement.
Second.
Motion by Trustee LaBedz, seconded by Trustee Schwingbeck.
Hello. An overburdened tax body is not going to be spending money there. They won't have discretionary income to buy things and create sales tax.
All right, thanks, Melissa. We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Trustee Canty,
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck,
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta,
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
Trustee Grasse,
Yes.
Trustee Baldino,
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
Trustee Bertucci,
Yes.
and President Hayes.
Yes. Now we move on to new business. We'll take up that other legal item in just a minute. And at home, are you here present? Would you come forward if you would? Just identify yourself if you would for the record.
Hi, President Hayes. I'm Scott Phillips, the managing partner of RPS Capital.
Okay, Scott. Why don't you go ahead and make your presentation if you would.
Sure. Do you want to come forward with presentation with? Oh, I'm sorry. With the sign.
Yeah. Introduce yourself as well, please.
Of course. I'm Alex Loof with Signs by Tomorrow. We've been filing all of the permit variations for RPS Capital and At Home in regards to the design of the sign they're looking to put up. Yeah, we went through the design commission already. They're going through IDOT to add in a new driveway because access into that shopping center and visibility to the building itself is kind of an issue, which is what we agreed on at the design commission. So just looking to put a sign out on 12 so people know where to turn in, because you're going to miss that building if you're going northbound on Route 12.
Okay, I'll turn it over to Mr. Perkins.
All right, thank you. They are seeking a sign variation to add an additional sign and a variation from the spacing that we have required between two signs. There are, I think, 6 signs on the property right now. So a couple of them are for the outlot buildings, Olive Garden and Chili's. There are 3 multi-tenant building signs, and then there's a floor and decor sign on Palatine Road. That was approved previously when the only building on this entire site was Cub Foods at the time. So that originally was approved as part of the Cubs food. They did submit a pole sign, and staff worked with the petitioner to have it modified to be a monument sign, similar architecture and style as the existing multi-tenant sign. So it'll be a very attractive monument sign. And his rendering showing how it would look. And it is going to be right at the corner by the new entrance. They're requesting a right-in, right-out only midway along the frontage on Rand Road. That application, I believe, has been filed with the state for approval of that. And so staff recommended approval of the sign with these changes. The Design Commission concurred.
Thanks, Mr. Perkins. Well, I would wholeheartedly concur with the recommendation of the staff and the Design Commission. I think we need to do all we can to help make these businesses and this shopping center successful. Trustee Canty.
I concur as well. I will say when it was announced that At Home was coming, I got a lot of text messages from some very excited members of the Arlington Heights community. So I'm glad to see you guys investing in the community. I'm glad to see you coming here. And I also would support the additional signage. I think it's true that it's very hard to see into that shopping center in different ways, and so as much visibility as we can get in there, getting folks to see that the store is there, getting them in there, shopping, etc. I'm wholeheartedly in support of that.
Anybody else? Trustee Scaletta.
You know, I've reviewed the minutes from the Design Commission, and I reviewed the designs that have been provided to us, and we need to make sure that we have signage, because this space specifically is very far back, and I think that it's going to only help them in market where they're located. And so I would concur with the Design Commission recommendation and staff with Trustee Canty.
Is that a motion?
I thought that she was going to make the motion, but I would move to concur with the Design Commission recommendation.
Second.
All right, motion by Trustee Scaletta, seconded by Trustee Canty. Any further questions or comments from the board or from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Good luck to you guys. Thank you. There is no other new business, and so we'll move on then to that legal item that had been removed. That's a resolution approving property to participate in the Cook County Class 6 Assessment Incentive Program, specifically the Atomic Mechanical Services, Inc., located at 3733 Ventura Drive. Mr. Ecklouse?
I'm going to let Mr. Perkins introduce this one as well.
All right, thank you. This is a good news story as well. Atomic Mechanical, they've been in Arlington Heights since around 2003. And to attract them back then, the village did approve a Class 6B tax abatement. The original owner of the company sold the business. The new business owner is looking to acquire the property. And in doing so, they would then invest an additional $1 million and expand with an interior mezzanine to increase their employee count in Arlington Heights. They've indicated that if they're unable to get the Class 6B, they would relocate outside of Cook County, where the taxes are more favorable for this kind of business. So we evaluated this. We took a look at it, and it made sense because of the investment that they're making in the property. They have also agreed and have executed the agreement that we have that they will rebate to the village 10% of the savings that will go into the village's zero-interest loan fund, and that helps other small businesses that can't avail themselves of this program but need some capital to improve their business operations. So we have a zero-interest loan program that's funded from these tax abatement programs, and I think we've issued around 18 to 20 zero-interest loans, and those are up to $20,000. So staff recommends approval of the Class 6B tax abatement.
Thanks, Charles.
And
sounds like a good deal for all involved. Questions or comments from the board? Trustee Bertucci.
I'm just going to move forward and recommend that the board approve a resolution supporting the application for a Class 6B tax incentive renewal for String 6 LLC of the property located at 3733 North Ventura Drive. The approval is subject to compliance with all village codes and regulations.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Bertucci, seconded by Trustee Tinaglia. Any other questions or comments from the board? I know, Melissa, you had asked this to be removed?
Yeah, an overtaxed body doesn't have extra money to spend on things like this, doesn't have discretionary income. So just keep that in mind.
Thanks, Melissa. Anybody else in the audience wish to address the board on this item? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Trustee Bertucci?
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia?
Yes.
Trustee Grasse?
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz?
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck?
Yes.
Trustee Baldino?
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta?
Yes.
Trustee Canty?
Yes.
President Hayes?
Yes. There is no other formal business. To move on to the report of the village manager, Mr. Ecklouse.
Nothing this evening.
Anything from the board under petitions and communications? Trustee Grasse.
Yes, I would just like to make a comment. I had no idea that we were going to have the comment brought up about the amendment to the flag. And I just wanted to mention, I am continuing to hear from people in the community wanting us to revisit the conversation. The only constant in life is change. And how we respond to it is part of what we do as a board. And one thing I would just like to put out there is that I would be open to a discussion on the amendment I offered as a restriction, especially because not everyone from the board was present for the vote. And if the majority says no, that's fine, but we are continuing to say no when not everyone on the board voted on the amendment. So I just wanted to toss out my comments on that.
Trustee Grasse, as you know, a majority of the board has voted in favor of the flag ordinance as it is currently now enacted. There was insufficient support to revisit any proposed amendments or to have any further discussion on it. I mean, we could revisit all the ordinances that we pass. I mean, once it's been discussed thoroughly and there is insufficient support to revisit it, then I think we ought to drop it.
Do we have insufficient support to revisit the conversation with the amendment from majority of the board?
We do.
Yes?
I would be willing to have the conversation.
All right, let's, so we don't keep going on with this ad infinitum, is there anyone else who wants to revisit this issue? Yes. Trustee Grasse and Trustee Canty and Trustee Baldino and Trustee LaBedz.
Okay.
Anyone else? That's 5-4 against.
Okay. And I think what I've been hearing, and that's, the will of the board, not everyone was here for it. And I think that's part of what the community wants to know. Now the community knows who wants to revisit that and who does not. And that's a good thing for transparency. So thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mayor?
Trustee Scaletta.
Have you spoken with Trustee Schwingbeck about this?
I have not.
Okay, well, because it seems like there's confusion, and he was the only one who was not here.
Okay. And so we now understand where he stands.
Okay, well, and so not sure why you wouldn't just ask him what his thoughts were.
I think it's good for transparency for the community to know where all of their village trustees stand on issues.
Okay, I think it's political.
All right, now we know where everyone stands on this issue. And
point of order.
All right.
Point of order.
Go ahead, Trustee Grasse.
I just want to make mention that comments such as Trustee Scaletta just offered do not make for good governance.
All right, enough said. Now the community knows where everyone stands on this issue, and we do have an ordinance on the books, and hopefully that ends the discussion on this, because we did have a full and fair discussion on it last year.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Scaletta, seconded by Trustee Tinaglia. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you for joining us this evening.